Welcome to another edition of Daily Airline News focusing on the search for MH370. I'm Jeffrey Thomas, and once again joined by my co-host Richard Godfrey in Germany. Good morning, Richard.
Good afternoon, Jeffrey.
And today we're going to focus on your questions on MH370, more fascinating questions. And really sorry if we don't get to your question because there are just simply so many of them. And quite a number of them, in fact, repeat questions that we have already answered. And so our apologies for that. But Richard, the first one comes from PJ-PI9ZF. Great show, just love it. And wondering why there were no life jackets from MH370 floating all over the ocean after the plane incapacitated the water at speed. Strange. Yeah, that's a strange question.
Yeah, but it's a very good observation.
It is.
Uh, you would normally expect that there would be life jackets deployed if a major airliner was ditching in the ocean, and not just life jackets, but also life rafts. um, Set to automatically deploy from each of the doors. So when MH370 is found, it will be interesting to see if all the life jackets are still stowed under aircraft seats amongst the wreckage. If the wreckage is intact enough to be able to discover that. But yeah, it's a good question, and it's one that remains unanswered until we find the wreckage.
Yes, it really does depend on the state of the aircraft and its final resting place. So John Isley, 4578, as Richard hopes to find MH370 within a 2 year period, is the 2 years based on intermittent or infrequent searches by Armada 7806? Would Richard's timeframe change if the search was constant until found? Thanks, and as always, appreciate your work.
Yeah, John, very good question. And one interested party in the MH370 search has put forward the idea of launching micro AUVs by parachute from an aircraft. They are run by artificial intelligence and come to the surface to recharge batteries with solar panels and communicate via satellite. A number could be launched and remain in the search area indefinitely until MH370 is found. The micro AUVs are capable of communicating with each other, and a permanent search operation of this nature is not weather dependent. However, a salvage operation to recover black boxes or items of wreckage would still be weather dependent. But in answer to your question, it would shorten the 2 year period substantially.
Yes, we know quite a bit about this new technology, and it is really super exciting, isn't it, Richard?
Yeah, sure is.
Yeah. So Doug Gray, hyphen X-ray Foxtrot 3 Hotel Zulu, have you published your code for the analysis of whisper data on the GIT hub? I believe your approach is plausible, but many experts disagree. Exposing your code, if you have not already done so, for independent analysis would be helpful. My initial question, though, is how can you be sure all the station clocks are properly synced? Microsecond errors could severely impact position estimates. NTP alone is fraught with errors.
Yeah, a very good question, Doug. The code is publicly available, and this offer is communicated in all of our papers. So, a number of academic institutions and private individuals have taken us up on the offer and have received the source code, the data we use, an installation guide, and an operating guide to the software. Whisper transmissions normally start at 1 second past each even numbered minute or 2 minutes UTC and occupy a 110.6 second slot. And then it starts again 2 minutes later. Many dedicated Whisper beacons use a GPS receiver to obtain precise UTC with the 1 PPS pulse and NMEA time messages. They use also GPS disciplined oscillators, GPS DOs, combined with a GPS receiver with a high stability oscillator to ensure both frequency and phase agree with GPS time to nanosecond levels. Some SDR platforms, like the Kiwi SDR, use an attached GPS to timestamp the data before uploading it to the WhisperNet, each ensuring then that each spot, as it's called, Whisper spot, the timestamp accurately reflects UTC. The software version of the receiver is also recorded in the WhisperNet database, so we can see what's being used at the receiver end and how accurate that will be. In general, an aircraft traveling at 500 knots will travel 28.449 kilometers in 110.6 seconds. So the Whisper crash location is only given with a accuracy or an uncertainty with a radius of 30 kilometers. And it's exactly for that reason. And you're quite correct. Whisper itself does not mandate GPS at every Whisper station. And whether someone's using GPS or NTP, it does have to maintain a UTC aligned timing to within about 1 second of GPS time. So GPS is the de facto choice for autonomous beacons and high precision setups, but there are still many NTP, PC-based operations, and that remains quite popular in certain circles.
Yeah, well, there you go, Doug. It's pretty comprehensive. Um, so, Dirk Smith, Foxtrot 4 Hotel, have we heard anything about the areas already searched? It just leaves us with a bit of apprehension. Sure does.
It sure does, Dirk. There has been no public information from Ocean Infinity regarding MH370 and their 2025 current project. Private emails from Ocean Infinity indicate that so far they've only been doing survey work, but many observers dispute that we have that information from Ocean Infinity. And in the absence of any formal communication publicly, that's obviously going to be and continue to be a source of all kinds of theories from relatively factual to right through to conspiracy theories.
And just to clarify, I know we've talked about this before, Richard, but the survey work they were doing was essentially mapping work to map areas that possibly hadn't been mapped properly before. But if this is a question from me for the viewers, if in this mapping work they came across the fuselage of MH370, that would show up, would it not?
Indeed, it would, and they would then stop their survey work and move into a search mode, and they would analyze whatever they've identified on the sea floor. They would map it out, take pictures, videos, and they haven't done that. So
No.
I think we can safely say they were just doing survey work. They were filling in gaps in previous bathymetric surveys, and they haven't actually started a specific search for any targets of interest and any specific search for MH370.
Yep. So, Stuart, GRACA, Jeffrey and Richard, can you show us the currently available mapping of the ocean floor in the Whisper area so we can see what problems exist for the search team and their equipment? Now, I'm going to answer this one. And the answer is, Stuart, yes, we can, and we're showing it to you right now. This was done by Geoscience Australia. It's a fly through from the southernmost area right up to the northernmost area, which is where the Whisper area is. But Richard, correct me if I'm wrong, not all of the Whisper area has been mapped, correct?
Yeah, the Whisper area sits on the edge of this geoscience fly through that you're showing. So part of it has been mapped and part of it not.
Okay, and we're also showing you a a still shot of the area with the Whisper area identified just for some clarity. Stuart, I hope that answers your question. So from John Potter, Kilo 8 Romeo, bearing in mind that the fuel would have been exhausted before the aircraft entered the water, would there would be fumes in the tanks. It is well known that fumes in an otherwise empty fuel tank are a greater risk of explosion than one in which fuel is in the tanks. Could the impact with the sea have caused such an explosion, causing comprehensive damage to the wings and center tank?
Yeah, John, that's clearly a possibility. When you have a crash, the electrical wiring is damaged and sparks can fly, short circuits occur. It only takes one spark, and as you point out, in an empty fuel tank with fuel vapor fumes still very much in the air, and that will cause an explosion. So it's very possible that your scenario is correct, in which case there is the damage from the impact, but also damage from explosion.
Good question. David Goulet, 2287. I've been following the story about what Richard has discovered about Whisper Technologies since he first came on YouTube, and I hope they find the wreckage where he says it is. I thought they were looking for it now, so can someone please tell me what is happening with the new search? Because I can't keep up with all the videos anymore. Surely they are not out there looking in the same area as before, or are they still waiting for permission from the Malaysian government? So David needs to be brought up to date.
Yes, David, doesn't surprise me you're confused because, in fact, no
We're
one is
confused.
no one really knows what's going on. There is no one currently searching for MH370. The Malaysian authorities have made a series of one-sided announcements that an agreement has been signed and a search will resume towards the end of this year. However, Ocean Infinity have not made any public statement to confirm any of those statements from the Malaysian authorities. So we're in the dark, so to speak.
And also, David, just for clarity, the search season for the southern Indian Ocean, we call that search season, it sounds like a hunting season, is from November to April. And between April and November, the weather is too gnarly to conduct a search safely and launch and recover AUVs. So we hopefully it'll start again in November. That's our hope, late October, early November. So J Titus PB7Z0. Thank you, gentlemen. I truly enjoy each and every episode on the MH370. My question is in the regard to the Chinese government. With over 150 of their citizens on the plane, it seems at least unusual that the Chinese hasn't stepped in and conducted their own investigation. Thank you, guys. Keep up the good work. Richard.
Yeah, well, we did wonder whether the TSYH ship was not doing just marine research, but was actively looking for MH370, but that appears not to be the case. The Chinese government official statement says they are working in close cooperation with the Malaysian authorities, and they support fully the action by Malaysia to want to do a further search. So we're now in the waiting mode to see if Ocean Infinity confirm that they will be back out in the search area in November.
Yeah. This next one, I won't try and pronounce the call sign. Hey guys, now this is the question that most intrigues me. What I don't get is that the Whisper hotspot is so small when the uncertainty about glide distance is so large. How does that work?
Good, good question. But there is a big difference between how far a Boeing 777 like 9M MRO can glide and how far it actually did glide. So we track an aircraft using Whisper every 2 minutes until we no longer detect that aircraft. And we can have shown that we can track right down to the surface of the ocean. So what we then do is we carry on ensuring no detections up to and beyond the time it would take to glide the maximum distance possible and more. So let me walk you through the timeline. Fuel exhaustion occurred around 0:17:30 UTC, so just after midnight UTC. The satellite data unit rebooted, and the last ping received from the satellite communication with the aircraft was at 0:19:37, so about 2 minutes later. And we estimate the crash took place at around 0:27:51 UTC, and we carried on looking until 1 hour later, so to make sure. So I hope that explains the difference between the Whisper hotspot being small, because that depends on the 2 minute uncertainty from Whisper data, but the glide range can be up to 110 nautical miles.
Yeah. Free Ranger CT 110 asks, this is more of a statement. Blaine Gibson has been, I believe, much maligned and grossly underappreciated in his efforts to find the flotsam wreckage of MH370. My question is Blaine continuing his search? And if so, Where are his current efforts concentrated on? Thank you.
Yeah, well, we also greatly appreciate the achievements of Blaine Gibson and fully agree that he does not deserve the public maligning given to him by people like Jeff Wise or Florence de Changy, who've accused him of being a Russian spy or a CIA spy. And I think Jeffrey Blaine is going to be on the show tomorrow, so he can speak for himself.
Yes, indeed. We're going to be talking to Blaine a lot more, and he'll be on the show tomorrow, bringing us up to date with debris. And there's some pretty exciting things happening in that space. And so, yes, if you'd like to listen to what Blaine has to say, do tune in tomorrow. And I couldn't agree more with Richard's comments that he has been very much maligned, ludicrously so, and yes, grossly underappreciated because the work he's done has been absolutely amazing. Not just the fact that he's picked up debris himself, but the fact that he's alerted all the locals in so many different locations. Do you have any MH370 debris? And I remember one particular fisherman he talked to. He was then taken to see his wife, and she was using a piece as a washing board. So yeah, bringing all this together has been an amazing job, and yeah, he's you can talk to him. We'll talk to him tomorrow, and you can give us some questions for him as well. Now, from Mark Hyphen Whiskey Lima 1 X-ray Lima. The wings, when the aircraft hit the ocean, the engines would have become detached due to the fuse bolts used to mount them. They are designed to break away when the aircraft hits the water. Richard, you're going to answer this question, but I'm going to add a little bit in too. Um, when the Asiana 777 crashed at San Francisco, it cartwheeled, spectacular, tragic crash, and the wings remained completely intact with the fuselage, although parts of the wings came away. Also, most of the seats remained also locked into the seat tracks, and only three people died miraculously. But you're right, the two engines did break away. As you suggest. Richard, you're going to add what the regs are on this.
Yeah, both the FAA in America and ESA in Europe have the same regulation, and you're quite correct, Mark. The design for any aircraft seeking certification to conduct over water operations must meet specific ditching structural requirements, and one of those is the engine mountains separating on impact with water, and another one is that separation um, cannot cause a spillage of enough fuel to then constitute a fire hazard. So very specific regulations, and it's a very important point to make. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, great question. So, Richard, now what you're doing a special, we're doing a special episode on Thursday. Can you perhaps tell the viewers a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. One of the episodes we did was pointing out the huge amount of data that's missing and would be potentially useful for the investigation into MH370. And one viewer suggested that we should produce a checklist of items to check off if a commercial airliner like MH370 were ever to disappear again. Now, since MH370 disappeared, there hasn't been any other case of a major commercial airliner disappearing without trace. But should it happen, we're going to present our checklist of all of the uh, procedures to follow in order to find out as soon as possible what has happened.
It should be fascinating. Absolutely. So, viewers, thank you very much indeed for tuning in. Thank you very much for your support. Please subscribe to us. Please like us. Please keep those tremendous comments and notes of encouragement coming through. We do appreciate it very much indeed. And Richard, thank you very much indeed for joining us today on your work and answering these questions.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And we'll please tune in tomorrow.